same situation. And I would just encourage anyone to, especially once you know, like I thought I had more time with my father. I didn't realize, the older generation never really told what illnesses they went through or what they were experiencing. So it was a shocker for me. I got a phone call that had just moved to Georgia. They got a phone call maybe like a month later that, he was found in his home unresponsive. So that prompted me, even though we had conversations before I moved, but I thought I had a little bit more time. So it's just a situation where you should definitely speak about what the plans are in the event your loved one is older or elderly or sickly, whatever the case may be, of how they want to divvy out their estate. It just makes so much sense to be prepared beforehand. So, I mean, luckily for us, because I had the experience, it was definitely a smoother process this time around, but it's a cost, a situation where if you're not prepared financially, it can be very costly. And it was something that we had to band together, utilize our resources to take care of. But it can definitely be prevented by taking the necessary steps in the beginning.
Right, which is why we're here. I
Mm-hmm.
think we all have a story of some sort, and I appreciate you sharing. Um, I know Melissa has her story. Everyone has a story. Because death is inevitable. Um, so that's why we're here, to figure this all out and get the proper guidance too. So I am back live. I'm back live, literally. Um, it went away for a second. So Marlon, you want to go ahead? We can get started if you're okay with that right now, or do you have a few more people coming in?
We sent out a link, so I think I heard you mention one person that logged on, but that's fine. We can get started.
Okay, I'm gonna. Were you able to? We have someone else coming in. Sorry. Were you able to access? Do you need? Yeah, just to share. All right, Joan, are you there? Okay. Can you all see my screen here? The Keller Williams screen?
No.
Okay. Okay. We'll do that at another time. I had a whole video. All right. So let's get started. I am Kay Chapman with Keller Williams, your probate expert and also your realtor. And welcome to the Power of Your Legacy series. We are actually having attorney Marlon Brummer with us tonight, and also on the 9th and the 16th. So be sure to join us on those dates as well. So a little bit about myself and how I actually started becoming interested with probate is that 2017, my dad became ill. And so my sisters, my brothers, all of the siblings, we got together, we had a family meeting, and we pretty much asked him like, hey, what are your estate affairs? What are your plans? And he said, I'll get back to you. And so from that point, we were talking, and we, as he was diagnosed with cancer, and, appointments after appointments, and long stays at the hospital, we definitely had our family to support him throughout that process. And so, pretty much after we found out, like, okay, there's no will. Marley, you met my parents. They came to your office, and I'm like, Dad, you need to get a trust. You need to get a trust. You need to get all these things in place. And so it never happened. And unfortunately, we did lose him May of this year. And so when he did become ill, let me go back. When he became ill in 2017, I'm like, okay, how does this all work? How does probate relate to real estate in terms of how I can better serve our communities and educate people about wealth transfer? And so that's when I started digging into it more and more. And it is very intense. I have referred Marlon's, I referred Marlon some clients through Valissa. I actually met Marlon through Valissa, who's also on the call. And I've we formed a partnership. And so he's able to assist my clients. I trust him and Nicole, and we've had great conversations around these very topics. So I am excited to have you here, Marlon. I'm excited that you all are here to join us, and I'll let you take it from here.
Thank you for having me. I really do appreciate this time, Kay, and I really do appreciate the relationship that we do have. And as Kay mentioned, I am Marlon Brammer. I'm an attorney, estate planning attorney for all of Florida. I do estate planning, business, and real estate, and obviously that would involve a little bit of probate as well. So the experiences that Kay has related, as well as Jatari and Valissa, are common to all of us, right? And it's sometimes a taboo discussion, or a topic that we want to talk about death or the passing of folks, but it's something that's going to happen. It's something that's natural, and the more we face the reality, is the better we can embrace the decisions that we have to make. Our life is just a myriad of choices that we make. And as you've heard through the stories of Jataria as well as Kay, and I'm pretty sure Valissa will share her stories as well, that it's just a matter of choices that were made or not made. And even when there isn't a decision made, that's a decision in and of itself. So what do? I help to protect families from losing their assets. I've helped to protect families, to essentially help them grow their assets over time. And the process involves several layers, right? Every client is unique, every experience is unique, in the sense that there are some families that may have businesses, there's some families that are just working families, there are other families that might have significant amount of inheritances. There are blended families, there are families that have unique set of circumstances. So it's important for you to sit with an attorney who has some experience in all of these areas, and they can better guide you into the right decision that you need to make with regard to that. How did I come into probate, or how did I come into estate planning? Well, my experience came from prior to law school, where I worked in the financial services industry. I actually had an experience that was very unique to South Florida, where a client of mine in the financial services realm, her daughter passed away. And it was all in the news, and it was a situation that was captivating South Florida at the time. And when she came to me, and she had the need for protecting her daughter through even just burying her daughter. That was an issue. And we wanted to, I definitely didn't want to repeat that process once more. So I wanted to be a part of the regulatory process. So I went to law school primarily to get on the regulatory side of the financial services industry. Decided that I wanted to work for the SEC, and that didn't work out, but I did work for the Florida Department of Financial Services, the IRS, and other firms, law firms, and several businesses that I've owned over the years. But that led me to living in Georgia right after law school, and having my blended family at home with me, or I should say my extended family, my wife, 2 kids, her parents, and my beloved sister-in-law. And on Father's Day, that day that everyone celebrates and try to make us feel a little bit better about ourselves, my sister-in-law was doing just that. She was going about creating dinner. She was the youngest of all of us, well, as far as the adults are concerned. And she just didn't feel real well. She decided that she'd go upstairs and just kind of rested off a little bit. She had a little bit of pain. And I remember my wife saying, "Did you hear a thud upstairs?" And I ran upstairs, and well, she told me to go upstairs because I ruled it off as maybe it was the kids playing. But I went upstairs, and she was on the ground, trying to breathe. and we called 911, and all our efforts were in vain as she passed away on Father's Day in 2017. And at that point in time, I was in the process of developing the plans for creating a law firm, but really didn't know in which direction I'd take it. But that was one of the first inspirations with regard to that. Then when we moved down here, and we actually had the opportunity to establish a firm and move forward in that respect. In 2021, after the COVID crisis came about, my wife again lost both of her parents within a week of each other. I share that because it's important for us to understand that these things happen without any warning. And the one thing that we do control is the ability to make a decision prior to that. I can't tell you, what that time will look like for me or for anyone else, right? But I can tell you what I've done in preparation for that time, right? And I've been thinking about this time that we're going to be spending with each other. And one of the things that was striking to me is how much do you want to leave a legacy? How much do you want to leave an imprint of yourself? How much do you truly care about the concerns about my wife, about my children upon my passing? I'm very concerned about that. I'm very concerned about the fact that if I should leave today, I want to ensure that my daughter has the means by which to continue her progress. And my passing isn't a reason why she becomes homeless or she becomes in a destitute situation. I'm concerned about the impact my absence will have on everyone here. And it's important for us as a community. I've served several communities, the Caribbean community. I've served, the African American community. I've served a diversity of folks, right, from all walks of life, creed, color, right. But it's especially unique, especially in the Caribbean community. I've had folks giving me certain anecdotes as to why it's important not to plan. I mean, they're adamant about not planning, primarily because if they do plan, it might spawn a bad luck or something along those lines, right? So it's important for us to step up to the plate and bat and realize that these things are going to happen, irrespective of our belief, irrespective of our creed or color. We need to make sure that we put the proper planning in place, right? And that could mean one thing to folks and other things to other folks, right? We can get deep into the weeds about how to go about it, but I think it's important for us to understand that each circumstances are unique. Now, okay, I know you wanted to discuss about the transfer, the great transfer that's occurring as we speak, ladies and gentlemen, right? As we speak, the largest population in this country, the baby boomers, they are essentially aging out into retirement. They're transferring the wealth from their generation to the next in the form of retirements, in the form of life insurance, in the form of homes, in the form of businesses. There's a huge transfer that's occurring right now. And if you're not a part of it, you need to become a part of it. And if you're a baby boomer or you're maybe a Gen X, which is next in line, you may want to consider these steps that you need to take. And quite frankly, again, I said creed, color, class, age is no respect as well, right? I think I showed a post on our Instagram page where my daughter, at the age of 19, she created her own trust, right? So it's important and why is that important? Why I mentioned that? Well, I know that the wealth that she creates over time, and the wealth that I'm going to help her create over time, right? It's protected, right? So at least she can love as she wants, as much as she wants to. She can go out and experience life as much as she wants to, but a knucklehead won't get control of the stuff that she's been creating, right? So it's important for us to do these things and teach these things as early on as possible, right? Because it's critical. I've said this many times to many clients. Maybe Valissa have heard this before. Maybe Kay have heard this before. But it's one of the lines that I tend to use over and over because it's true. It might be trite, but it's true. I simply say that we know how to create wealth. We know how to get jobs. We know how to start businesses. We know how to compound interest. We figure that out, right? It's not that difficult, right? The part of wealth that we haven't really figured out is the transfer of wealth, right? Because you and I, we're competing against old money. And what is old money, right? Old money is money transferred over time from generations to the next, effectively transferring that wealth, right? Through business structures, through trusts, through various structures, life insurance, ensuring that that wealth is protected from generations to come. Not necessarily giving a handout, but a leg up to the next generation, right? And there's an old saying that success leaves clues, and you can study the greats of our time. You can study the Warren Buffetts of our time, and you can see that they've done a very good job of creating wealth, and they're doing a great job of also transferring. He in particular is interesting to me primarily because he's made it clear that he's not going to be transferring anything to his kids, right? And essentially he's given them all that he can, right? And they have to kind of make their own way, and a great portion of his wealth is going to be given away. That's part of estate planning. Be clear, be specific about what you're going to be doing, and have a specific purpose that is going to have an effect that you want to have on the next generation. He essentially says, you know what, I want to create independent adults that can stand on their own feet. And that's I respect that, right? If that's what you want to do, you still should have a plan for what you're going to be doing with the corpus of your wealth, right? That is what he did by essentially saying that he's going to be giving or gifting his wealth away to those who are in great need, right? He and various billionaires have made that commitment, right? What plans do you have in place, right? We don't want to be caught off guard. And you might think, well, why are you comparing me with Warren Buffett, right? He has wealth beyond measure. I only have a condo, right? You have no idea what that statement simply means. I know of clients who purchase condos for $50,000 and have sold that condo, got bought up by a developer for millions of dollars, that one condo, right? Because they need that space to develop it in a different way or fashion or what have you. So they bought them out. $1 million, a check, right? An investment of $50,000 create a millionaire over time, right? So these are, I like the relationship that Kay is trying to emphasize, the relationship between planning and real estate. Very powerful, right? That's just one example, but there are many strategies that can be used with creating and protecting wealth through real estate and the proper structuring of a good estate plan. And I'd love to discuss that with you. The questions that I'm going to try to entertain some questions from Kay to see whether or not you guys have any questions with regard to everything I've said so far.
No, that's great. And I like, and one of the things that I do want to point out is the 16th, we're actually going to have a CPA on to talk about, like, once you create your estate plan, your wills, your healthcare directives, and your trust with Marlon, you actually need to work with a CPA. Marlon, you want to explain that?
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
Why that's important?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll give you an example. I sat on a board for at my HOA, And the HOA, we have a professional management company that manages the affairs of the HOA. I don't think anyone knows that I'm an attorney, right? And I don't think anyone knows that I do real estate, right? So it's important for me, even me, having some idea, some experience in the industry to draw on the expertise of someone else who does that day in, day out. Day in, day out, they do property management. I might understand it. I might be able to even guide them in some way, form, or fashion, but I'm not going to act as the professional, right? You are in the process of creating wealth. You need to rely on a professional that can identify certain ways in which you can actually go about protecting your wealth through taxes and grow your wealth through taxes and using various tax avoidance strategies. It's important for you to engage your team of professionals, right? You want an attorney on board, you want a CPA on board, you want to make sure that you have the right professional for the right reason, right? You want a good realtor on board, ensure that you have the right counsel that's going on with regard to everything that's going on. I think we've grown up in a society where the YouTube society where we I can pick it up, I can DIY this and so on and so forth, and that's fine. There's some things that you want to try to control as much as possible, but the immense resource of a CPA professional on your team is tremendous. I would recommend that you hop on and listen to Simone. Simone, she's not only a CPA, she's also a professor. She teaches the stuff at college, and she's had many awards for the work that she's done and recognition in the community. And I'd highly recommend that you hop on and listen to her. She's just a cool person.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Thank you.
Yeah.
So you were talking earlier about it's not too young to establish an estate plan, right? And I think that's one of the misconceptions that some people like, I don't have any assets. My daughter, she's 21 years old. So if I were to say, hey, you need to have a will, a trust, she may think that she's too young. So, and then you have the baby boomers who are passing away. They're the builders, they're leaving their legacy. And so even like some of my family members that I know of, they feel like they're too old. Now they're too old to establish an estate plan.
Mm-hmm.
So what would be your conversations, with the young and the old, because we have that gap in between, but how would you facilitate someone who actually has that objection?
So for the younger folks, you have a tremendous opportunity to call it time, right? You have this thing called time, and when I look back at the years that I had, it just went by like that, right? So, and you'd be surprised how much wealth will pass through your hands throughout those years. And if you had a mechanism or a system or infrastructure to ensure that wealth is, one, put to good use, two, protected over time, you can safely build your wealth and compound it over time. That's for the younger folks. For the older folks, the people in between, you need to get it done right away, right? Time is not, the runway is a little bit less, right? We have a little bit less runway ahead of us and a little more runway behind us, right? So we want to make sure that we are thinking not just about our immediate set of circumstances. I know you want to live your best life right now, and I know this is what you've been working for your entire life. I get it, but you also want to remember that you can have an impact beyond your entire life. I always use the example of Sir Isaac Newton. So Isaac Newton, he's been dead for over 200 plus years and was alive for less than 100 years, right? So he's been dead longer than he was ever alive. And the impact he has had over the years with regard to everything that he brought to the table. And we can think of others who've done the same, right? But the impact that he has on this and generations to come is tremendous. Now we're in a society where we cherish the creators, right? You're a YouTube creator, you're this creator, you're a creator of a business, you're a visionary, you're a mover and a shaker, right? But you also want to protect that IP, that interest that you have in that product, that interest that you have in that YouTube channel. You want to make sure that it's protected beyond you, right? So we have many examples of folks who did well, especially in YouTube, and passed away, right? And they had a huge impact for a short period of time, making millions on their YouTube channel. But because the structure wasn't there to protect it beyond that, it's kind of left up to a challenge or two, right? The same thing with we have many examples of that, right? We have Prince, we have other people who just, for one reason or the other, didn't go about planning, right? So this is something that you want to get done right away. If you're older than 25, you want to get it done right away, right? If you're younger than 25, get it done, right? Get it done. There's nothing wrong. There's no harm in getting it done. I understand that you're still in the process of trying to get that first job, maybe, right? But you'd be surprised how quickly these things get thrown at you. And I always throw that one example that you never know. You might be the guy that walked into the store and bought the $1 million lottery ticket. What are you going to do then, right? If you had a plan in place, then you know exactly what to do. Of course, you can at that point in time you can afford to do whatever, right? You can hopefully walk into an attorney's office and get it done. True story. I actually had a lottery when I walked into my office, and we took care of them. But the point is, there's nothing wrong with getting this done right away, right? And making sure that those things are protected. Like I said, there will be no suitor who can assume control of anything that my daughter creates or grows, right? Even if she's wooed by that person and she's willing to sign it all over, it's all protected because she really does own it, right? It goes into a trust.
Oh, I love it. I love the fact you're talking about digital assets, because I think that's one thing that we forget about, you know, um, even with our trust. So another question that I have for you. So when we're talking, let's take a step back and talk about probate. When someone dies testate versus intestate, and a lot of people, like, what is the least, if someone does not want to create a trust, do you advise them to at least have a will?
Have something, right? Have something,
Okay.
right? So, if you don't plan, the state will plan for you, and that's called probate, right? So the state has an interest to, and let's be honest. I mean, if you were running a country, you have an interest in ensuring that assets stay in the stream of commerce, right? If we had a hurricane that blew down 200 homes and 200 people are dead, what are we going to do with those assets? We want to put them back on the market. Want to make sure that the blight doesn't stay the way it's supposed to be. There's no one here to claim these homes anymore, right? We want to make sure that the stream of commerce continues, right? So if you didn't have a plan, the state has a plan, and it's called probate, right? So they're going to try to make sure that and I always advise my clients that probate is truly designed not necessarily to provide you with a plan, but to actually provide creditors the opportunity to get their fair share of your estate, right? So that's the whole idea of probate, to ensure that whoever has a claim, come and get it, right? Make sure that we're gonna make this a public process. So there has to be a publication that goes out, and there are gonna be people interested in ensuring that the car payment that you took out is paid for. They want to make sure that the credit card that you had was taken care of. They want to make sure that, and my biggest challenger in most of my probate cases is the state. To be honest with you, it's called ACON, the medical portion of the state. They're trying to ensure that those 2 or 3 weeks that you're in a hospital and your Medicaid ran out, right, and they had to foot the bill, they're coming to make sure that that bill is taken care of, right? So, there's statutory requirements that you need to notify ACA with regard to that. All right. So the whole process is designed to marshal your assets into court and to ensure that whoever has claim over those assets, all claims are settled. Once that is done, then you can decide whether or not Johnny is going to get the house or whatever is left off the bank account, right? But you have to make sure that certain claims are settled before probate, right? That the easiest way to do is to avoid that by setting up a trust. It's a private contract between parties. The assets are no longer owned by you. They're essentially avoiding probate and avoiding, in certain limited circumstances, creditors, and obviously providing yourself with a little bit more confidence as to how things would go with regard to your debt.
Sorry, anyone, do any of you have any questions regarding this probate or anything Marlon has discussed?
No, I don't have any questions, but thank you for the invite, because I feel like, all knowledge, or some knowledge is all knowledge, always learning something new. Me personally, we do have some things set up in place as far as my parents is concerned. So I'm happy to hear that a lot of the things you're talking about, I'm already in the flow of doing or already done. And I look forward to, hearing the CPA next week.
On the 16th. Thank you, Ebony. I appreciate you coming.
So, Marlon, I actually do have a question.
Sure.
So I recently created the EIN for my father's estate. And with that being said, you mentioned as far as like creditors coming after it. So it's very well possible I will start receiving those phone calls, or they may reach out to me regarding anything he has open that hasn't been closed.
So how old is the probate proceeding?
So we did an order of summary administration, and that cleared on October 17th.
Okay. All right. So I'd say if you haven't heard anything within 3 months, the court would be willing to, especially with a summary administration, the court would be willing to close the probate out.
Okay.
And it's summary primarily because of the amount of assets involved.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah.
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 It was less than 75,000 as far as in like any bank accounts outside of the homestead.
Outside of the homestead, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you should be fine. Yeah. I don't think you're gonna have a huge issue with creditors. Was he in the hospital?
No, he wasn't.
Okay.
He wasn't in the hospital in the final days.
Okay. Did you do an inventory of the creditors that he may have had?
As far as I'm concerned, or as far as I know so far, I haven't seen anything come across, but I'll definitely be on the lookout.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So but thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Not a problem.
And Marlene, thank you, Jataria, for asking that question. Marlene, what is the purpose of the homestead, filing for homestead, orders homestead with the probate process?
So the court has determined that there's certain assets that are worthwhile protecting, right? So that simply means that certain creditors cannot make a claim against those assets. And the state has specifically said that if you're in your primary home is your homestead, and because it is your homestead, the creditors cannot make a claim against that homestead, plus an additional $1,000 for a spouse, right? So up to those two parameters, they're protected against claims from any creditors. So anything above that homestead will be used as a calculation for whether we're going to be doing a summary or a full administration, and that threshold is around $75,000.
Gotcha. Sorry, someone else was coming in.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you. Does anyone have any other questions? Melissa?
No questions. I just wanted to mention for anyone that's listening, Mr. Bremer did prepare my trust for me. And a part of the trust that, other than feeling so secure that if anything happens to me, my daughters are protected, I appreciate the fact that he updates it annually. And just being on here reminded me that my anniversary is coming up. So I need to,
yeah,
and
yeah.
I thank you for that.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you have any changes that needs to be done, we can do that for you for free. And if there are any changes to the law as well, you want to make sure that that is done, which is a good segue into ensuring that you have someone that's on your team with respect to that. Because it's to be frank with you, you can download some of these documents and get them done, right? But you don't know what you don't know a lot of the times. And again, that's the reason why I rely on professionals, even though I might have some understanding of what they're doing. I still rely on their insights because I sometimes don't know what I don't know, right? So it's important for you to have that person instead of a form that you download from a website, to be there as a partner with you in life. There are layers to estate planning, right? So I want to make sure that you start off with your basic estate plan, making sure that you're avoiding probate, making sure that you have your powers of attorneys, all those documents set in place, right? As you're going about the process of creating wealth, you're going to realize that you're going to need a little bit more protection, right? You're going to realize that you're going to need to potentially try to avoid taxes in certain circumstances, especially in the real estate avenue. So you want to make sure that you come back to our table and take a look at the different approaches that you may want to employ over time, especially if you're about the business of creating wealth through real estate.
Absolutely. And Melissa, Marlon did your probate, if you don't mind me sharing, for your mom and your siblings, correct? Do you want to talk about that process?
Um, I don't want to speak on the process other than to say that we received first class service. Mr. Brammer made sure that everything went smoothly, that there was no difficulty in processing everything. And he was a very good negotiator between the siblings and getting everything settled nice and smoothly. And I appreciate that. And I thank you in your office for that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's something we enjoy doing. I enjoy doing what I do, and look forward to helping as many people in this community as possible.
Thank you. Thank you. I should have said experience. Excuse me, Melissa. All right. So any other questions, feedback from anyone? I know we're at about 45 minutes in. And I just want to make sure we answer any questions that you all may have. Okay. So Marlon, anything else that you would like to discuss? Because I know we can go on for hours. Actually,
I do have one question. If Mr. Bremer, if you can just review some of the things that would go into the trust, because I've made quite a bit of changes, and I want to just make sure that I include everything when I submit them to you.
Sure. So I'm of the belief that I should ensure that when you walk out the office, you have everything that you need to take care of everything from here on out. So if you typically walk into a law firm and you ask for a trust, that's exactly what you're gonna get. You're gonna get a trust. They might give you the difference between what an irrevocable or a revocable trust is. And most people will go with an irrevocable trust, and that's perfectly fine. And that's just one document of the many documents that Melissa is referring to that actually goes into what we call a trust package, right? So you can certainly walk into our offices and all you wanted is a trust. There are clients who do it all the time and say, I don't want any of those other documents. I just want a trust. That's fine. But we try to have most of our clients eat their veggies. And that means you're going to be getting the power of attorney, the healthcare directive, the guardianship documents, the HIPAA waivers. The HIPAA waiver is an important one. That was an experience that I had with my grandmother where I couldn't gain access to certain medical records. To this very day, they denied us those medical records because we didn't have a HIPAA waiver. So you get the guardianship documents, you get the HIPAA waivers, you get the DNR documents, do not resuscitate documents. All of these documents, I think, are a lot more important than, let's say, a trust, right? Because what does a trust do? It helps you to avoid probate, helps you to protect your assets, and that's great. But the most important thing that's going to be discussed on that faithful bed that we're all going to be lying on eventually, right, is do you have someone that can make a medical decision on your behalf? Does this person have access to your medical records? Is someone going to be able to sign checks on your behalf if you should just become incapacitated? Death isn't sometimes the most scary thing. Survival is, right? So if you went to the hospital and you didn't die and you survived, sometimes that's even more challenging than if the person had passed, because now we're talking about long-term care. We're talking about ensuring that this person can actually be represented in court, right? If you didn't appoint someone to be a guardian, right, who's going to be the person that's going to represent you in court? That person is going to be appointed by the court system itself, right? And they have a whole little process involved with ensuring that they have the right appointed person to represent your interests, right? Why not control all of that from the onset, right? So that's all the most of the documents that goes into the trust package that we put together for all of our clients. And believe it or not, that's the basic first step in ensuring that your assets are protected and ensuring that you are essentially protected while you're alive and even after you're gone, right? As we go along and as we develop the relationships, you realize that you're compounding your wealth over time, and you might want to employ certain strategies to create a legacy. Maybe you want to establish a charity for the purposes of avoiding taxes, right? Or just for the purposes of doing good. But I'm just letting you know that that's a strategy, right? There are tons of different strategies out there that can be utilized to ensure that you're protecting your wealth and ensuring that the next generation is working on creating and protecting wealth as well. We can go as far as creating a charter for the family, right? Like a constitution, a family constitution that would essentially be established certain rules to ensure that wealth is transferred in a certain specific way. These are for your families that have businesses with multi-locations, right? You want to make sure that you have a mechanism by which succession can occur. Business, a son or a daughter can ensure that a certain division in the Northeast is taken care of, while the other person takes care of the Southeast, so on and so forth. Trust me, this is an entire process, right? But the very first thing that anyone should do is make sure that you're protecting your avoiding probate and protecting your assets as best as you can.
Absolutely. Inheritance should be a blessing, not a burden.
Yeah.
That's what it comes
Absolutely.
down to.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a peace of mind.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Part of my story starts, if you go to my website, it tells them that the story started in the 1800s, right? And so yeah, obviously that's done to pique your interest, but it started when my family settled in Jamaica in the 1800s, and they were, that's this as a story was told to me. It was a slave that fell in love with one of the wealthy landowners there, who was of British descent, and we inherited thousands of acres. And to this very day, I can't lay claim to one acre, right? And that's primarily because the wealth, the transfer of wealth, talk about the great wealth transfer, wasn't done properly. I remember going to, as a child, going to that plantation, and seeing the matriarchs and the patriarchs of the family kind of going over into a corner, kind of whispering and kind of doing their little deals or what have you. And it was revealed to me later on that they were just simply talking about what are they going to be doing with such and such, and this land was taken over, and this was gifted, and this was sold, and so on and so forth. And there was just no proper way. Let's talk about a family constitution, right? There was no proper mechanism to ensure that the next generation understood what was there and what needed to be protected. I'm of the opinion, and this is my personal pet peeve, is if you have a family, you need to be as brutally honest as possible, right? Be as brutally honest as possible. Johnny, you're gonna get $1. Susie, you're gonna get $10,000, right? And this is the reason why, right? Or this is the extent of our bounty, and this is how things are going to be rolled out, right? Be brutally honest, right? And if you have a certain desire or outcome that you want to engineer, I'd be happy to sit down and help you design that process, right? I can tell you that the one of the most wealthiest person in the world, he's given away most of his wealth, right? Primarily because he just doesn't want to enable his kids to be entitled, right? And that's perfectly fine. That is an engineered outcome that he's trying to accomplish. And I don't think we've given it enough thought as far as what we need to do to affect the outcome. I've sat with tons of clients, and I'm impressed by the ideas that they come up with as far as how they're going to be transferring their wealth to the next generation. And that's one of the beautiful things about planning, or especially using a trust. You can be as creative as you want it to be, right? It doesn't have to be this mundane 50-50 split on everything. It could be a very creative and effective way of affecting your family and the communities that you serve, right? So I just want to leave that thought with you guys, that we can have an impact beyond just dollars and cents. We can have an impact that really, truly changes and affects lives, affects the minds of folks that is within our sphere of influence. And that can be done simply through creating the proper plan, making the right decision, right? If there's one thing that you can do effectively, this can be it.
Yes, and with the holidays coming, I feel like it's a great time to start those conversations.
Absolutely. Everybody's around the table.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's from out of town. Let's talk about what's going to happen to grandma's house, right? How you guys want to deal with this, right? Do you want to just we can truly create have some creative ideas around homes that have been in the family for 30, 40 years. I mean, it's some truly creative ideas. I'm sure if one of those families or a family member that has a home like that, it's some truly creative ideas can be spawned from that.
Absolutely. So Marlon, I want to thank you for joining us on our first webinar. It has been quite the experience. I am looking forward to continuously working with you.
Sure.
I think my real estate friends, my real estate sisters who have joined us on this call, my family, and Also those of you who are on Facebook. And we're going to continue this next week. And one homework assignment I would like to give everyone, Melissa, I gave you this yesterday, is to watch the documentary on Silver Dollar Road and the loss of the property in, I believe it was Charleston, South Carolina. And it was 65 acres of property. Sorry, I'm still having people join. About 65 acres that were lost. Don't quote me on the number, but a family, the one wish that the father had was to not sell his land. And they ended up losing the land to developers. And one gentleman, given a quick summary, actually spent 8 years in jail, so in prison. So I would like to discuss that because that is the importance of us understanding what estate planning is really about. You know, he didn't want to have a will, which, like you said, that's the one instrument we should have, the very least. So I would like to task you all with watching that documentary before next Thursday.
Absolutely.
Yeah, be
And,
interesting to discuss.
I'm gonna Google that, Silver Dollar Road.
Silver Dollar Road. And also Marlon,
Mhm.
and this just came to mind as you were talking about your heirs property, that we as slaves were also probate property, right?
Yeah.
As you know, colored people, we
Pretty
were
much.
part of the probate process. We were probate property.
Gifted and given away.
Yeah.
That was part of the bounty that you'd receive as a young heir of a plantation. Right? And, I can get really deep into the weeds on subjects like these. We can talk about how certain attitudes have been genetically manifested through the experiences that we've had over the years. And we have to unlearn certain things and embrace certain realities, right? And it's important for us to understand the structures that governs the economies that we reside in, right? And this is one of the oldest structures existing all the way back to the days of Greece, right? All the way back to the crown, when they'd sent off wealthy landowners to fight for war and ensure that if that wealthy landowner dies, all the land and the slaves on that land would be owned by the crown, right? Well, the wealthy landowners, they decided that, you know what, I see what this crown is doing. They're stealing my land through death. And so they essentially created what is called a trust. They transferred for a temporary period of time to the property to the aunt, who probably wouldn't be going off to war, or a niece who probably wouldn't be going off to war. And if he came back, then she transferred the land back to him. And if not, she would own the property, would stay in the family, and it would go on for generations to come. This is where we are. This is structures that we lived in and we are living in. We need to use these structures to ensure that we're protecting our wealth. One last thought I think I wanted to emphasize what Valissa was saying with the fact that we do annual reviews and we try to make sure that everything is up to date. I've seen scenarios where wealth was lost through marriage. Right? It's not because the person didn't make the right decision, right? They went out and they did create a trust. They did create a will. They did all these things that I'm encouraging you to do, right? But they got divorced, got remarried, and because of the fact that certain circumstances weren't changed and updated with the trust, the property was lost to the next generation, right? So it's important for your trust to reflect what your life is, right? Life changes, circumstances change. I've seen situations where they did the right thing. They created the trust, and they just didn't fund it, right? They didn't go through the process of funding it. And 2 generations have passed and no one funded the trust. And now we're trying to probate 2 generations back, right? So it's important for you to make sure, again, you have a professional, a partner in your corner that would essentially guide you with regard to that.
Thank you. What are some ways that you can fund a trust?
So the funding is just a fancy word to say that we're transferring the assets to the trust, right? So you can fund the trust through retitling your property to the trust. You can fund the trust by retitling your bank account to the trust, or you can reposition certain assets such as your life insurance. Instead of making your life insurance making a live person the beneficiary of life insurance, simply make the trust the beneficiary, because what we know about live people, they die, right? Or they change their mind, or they change their feelings about you, or they may get into financial trouble, and you transferred $1 million to them through the process of a life insurance policy, and they're now binging on drugs, right? With $1 million in their bank account, right? So you want to make sure that you have a modicum of control with regard to that by creating making the beneficiary the trust instead of a live person.
Noted. All right.
All right.
Let me just check the chat really quickly. I'm sorry. Okay. All right. No questions in the chat. That was just to me directly.
Okay.
And special needs trust. I've learned about that.
Right.
That you can actually, I know there's so many different types of trust, but
Right.
special needs trust.
Yeah. So a special needs trust is done when you have someone who has benefits from the federal government, and you want to ensure that those benefits aren't interrupted. So you can use a special needs trust or a different structure to essentially have some assets be transferred to the person without it being disrupting your federal benefits. A special needs trust is an irrevocable trust, so it's a true separation of assets from you to that person. So they want to make sure that you don't have control over the assets. Once it's gone to the special needs trust, it's going to be there to serve that specific purpose of supporting, supplementing, not supplanting, supplementing the federal benefits that this person is receiving. That's one use of the special needs trust, but it's specifically used for those with special needs. And you want to, if you're a single mom or a single dad who has a child who has special needs, or if you're a married couple with a child who has special needs, it's more than likely that that person is going to outlive you and will still have that special needs. So you want to ensure that certain assets are there for their protection, number one. Number two, you want to make sure that you have a good trustee that would carry on the work that is necessary to support that special needs person.
Yeah, that's valuable information.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, well, Marlon, I want to thank you again. Thank you to everyone who has joined us. Just found it not selfish to join us on this call. Again, we'll be here next Thursday, November 2nd, and also November 16th with the CPA, Simone. Both days are at 7:30. So November 9th and November 16th at 7:30. And I will send out the link and the replay for tonight's webinar. Marlon, you have any words that you would like to part us with?
You know, it's important for us to understand that it's one of the most unselfish things that you can do by planning, right? Like I said, everybody's circumstances are different. There might be, one of the hardest person to actually convince in this industry is the person who doesn't necessarily have a child, doesn't necessarily have any living relatives to pass things on to. But one of the most unselfish things that that person could do is to ensure that their interests are taken care of, whether it was a congregation that you attended, a parish or a church or synagogue or a mosque, right? That you could possibly provide support to. Maybe it's a cause, maybe it's a charity that you want to ensure that it carries on that cause, or maybe you establish your own, right? There's just so many ways in which we can be, again, more about having an impact than it's more about dollars and less about dollars and cents, and more about having an impact in the community. I also want to leave that as a parting thought, that we should all endeavor in everything that we do, whatever your vocation is, try to ensure that you have that impact that would last beyond you. Be that Isaac Newton, be that person that would protect your interest, whether it be a IP, whether it be a situation with regard to a charity or a concern or a cause that you want to put forth. You see with examples of successful people who are just giving away their wealth, right? These are people who have come to the tip of the world and realize that wealth really is a tool, and it really doesn't make the person, but it can actually have an impact on those who are truly in need. So just don't forget that you can have an impact no matter how small it is.
Amen. Amen. Marlene, you've definitely added value to us tonight. And I appreciate you all again. I can't say thank you enough. I really can't say thank you enough. And we look forward to doing this again, even after this series, because I feel like, it's all about educating the masses and getting everyone to understand the importance of avoiding probate and having an estate plan. So thank you all again. I hope you all, this added value to you all as well. And I look forward to seeing you all next week. Thursday, November 9th, 7:30 sharp. 7:30 sharp. And thank you to everyone that's on Facebook that joined us live stream. And we will see you all next Thursday. Remember, Thursday the 9th at 7:30 p.m. sharp.
Thank you for having me, and I enjoyed the time.
Thank you. Thank you, Marlon. All right. Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.